here's the interesting thing though. Because when I went and listened to Pitbull live, and I watched Pitbull live, something changed, folks. Something changed. And there's actually something really important here for us to learn. So stick with me here. There is an important thing for us to learn. When I watched Pitbull live, so I basically watched Pitbull live in two specific contexts. The first context in which I watched Pitbull live was him performing the song live with the singer. So I would watch Pitbull perform on the floor with Jennifer Lopez. I would watch Pitbull perform Timber with Kesha at some music awards show. I would watch Pitbull again perform Give Me Everything Tonight with Neo live. So that was the first context in which I observed Pitbull. I would watch him performing with the artist, with the singer, live. Something interesting happened because I expected, this is what I expected. I expected Pitbull to look like a spur wheel. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking to myself, yeah, Pitbull's going to come out onto the stage here, yo, he's going to do his rapping, and the singer is just going to completely outcompete him, basically. The singer is going to overshadow him. That's what I thought. Now, what I saw and heard was completely different. It was actually the reverse. Pitbull overshadowed the singer. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I don't mean that Pitbull was going out there to try and one-up the singer. No, I don't mean it in that way. What I mean is, when I was observing the two on the same stage, performing the same song, whenever I assessed both of their performances, I couldn't believe the conclusion that I was coming to. I was thinking to myself, I actually prefer Pitbull's input. I prefer Pitbull's energy. Pitbull had an aura on stage, and the way he was delivering his rap, he had so much punch, he had so much energy, he was sweating like fuck. He was giving it his absolute all out there on stage. There was no lip syncing that I could detect. He was out there in front of the crowd like a front man. That is the first thing I thought. Whenever I saw Pitbull, Pitbull is the only rapper that I have ever seen up on stage who actually looks like a frontman, like a lead singer. Now, he doesn't sing, he raps, but his aura is that of a lead singer. And I couldn't believe it. I was scratching my head going, the singer has less aura than Pitbull. And that surprised me, I have to be honest. I found that surprising. Now, I'm not saying that the singer was bad, not at all. The singer was excellent. They performed excellently. It's just Pitbull was a notch or two above them, and that surprised me. So then, I watched a few of these performances, and I thought to myself, well, maybe this was a fluke. Maybe this first performance was a fluke. So I start to watch more of these collaboration performances with the singer and Pitbull performing the song live. And every time, Pitbull, comes out on top as from my perspective, he comes out on top as the focus, as the center point, as the most important figure on the stage. Which then led me to a very interesting thought. It put me into an interesting frame of mind. And it made me think about something. And I thought to myself, well, surely Pitbull, when Pitbull goes out on tour, surely Pitbull isn't going to be, bringing Neo around the world. Surely Neo isn't going to be bringing Kesha around the world. Surely Neo isn't going to be bringing Jennifer Lopez around the world on his world tour just to sing one song in his set. So then I started to think, well, okay, I'm watching these collaboration performances, but when Pitbull tours, he must be performing these songs without the singer. And so I thought to myself, if Pitbull is actually, in my opinion, more integral to the live performance than the singer, then I thought to myself, well, how about I actually either confirm or deny this suspicion by watching Pitbull perform the song without the singer? So that was the second context in which I was observing and analysing Pitbull. So after I had watched a bunch of these collaboration performances, I said, okay, well, I'm coming to a very unsuspecting conclusion here. I'm coming to conclusions that I did not expect. So let's now watch Pitbull perform the song with the singer as a backing track, and it's just him on the stage. So again, I'm a fair man. And so I went and started to watch some of Pitbull's live shows without the singers. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He didn't need the singers. All he needed was the backing track. He didn't actually need the singer on stage. He owned the stage. In fact, the more I looked at it, the more I thought, man, part of me nearly prefers Pitbull performing the song on his own compared to when he's performing it in collaboration with a singer. These were the conclusions I was starting to come to. So I start to watch a whole bunch of Pitbull performances where it's just him out on stage with his group of dancers, and the singer isn't present. The singer is just being pumped through the PA using the studio recorded vocal. And initially I thought, surely this isn't going to work. Surely Pitbull, a rapper, isn't going to get up on stage and rap his way through this song without the singer, live, present, in person, using the singer's studio recorded vocal. Surely Pitbull isn't going to get out on stage and pull this off. And holy fuck, folks, guess what? He did. He absolutely pulled it off. And initially, part of me almost wanted to reject the conclusions that I was coming to, because I, for so long, had in my mind relegated rappers to this group of basically, field singers. That's what I thought. I thought they were field singers. I thought they were, desperate to be the frontman singer that they could never be, and they had created this sort of genre of talking through songs to make up for their shortcomings musically. That's sort of what I thought. And to a large degree, I do still think that. Most of the rappers, I've no interest in them. They do look like field singers, and they do look like they're trying too hard to be, to basically fill the boots that a singer would normally fill. But Pitbull taught me something interesting, because here he was. He wasn't singing a melody. He wasn't doing anything. He was just doing what he always does. He raps and he uses that really cool voice. And, here he is out on stage with his dancers. And I'm going to go back to something I said earlier, because here's the thing that really surprised me about Pitbull. He is a frontman. And I couldn't believe this. Most rappers, whenever I see them, they are not frontmen. Not for me. They are not in the same stratosphere as Freddie Mercury, Bono, Roger Daltrey, Phil Collins, Bon Jovi. No. Just no. They are not there. They do not have the charisma, the talent, the range, the showmanship. They just don't have it. I would relegate them to a category 2, 3, 4 notches below a lead frontman singer of a band. But Pitbull, I have to be honest, folks, and maybe you'll agree or disagree, I don't know. I can only speak from my own perspective. But for me, Pitbull, and I couldn't believe the conclusion that I was coming to, but this is how I felt. Pitbull, I actually would put him in the top category of lead frontmen and performers. And he's a rapper. He doesn't even sing. Which tells us something really interesting, folks. You know, let me speak to the musicians out there. Specifically, let me speak to the singers out there. You see, all you singers, you could all learn a thing or two from Pitbull. Because you know what Pitbull has when he goes out on stage? He may not have a marvelous singing voice. He may not have an exquisite range. He may not have melody built into his bones. But you know what he does have? He has aura and presence. And he has fuck tons of charisma. He knows exactly who he is. And he knows exactly who he wants to be up on stage. And you see, when he gets up there, there's not a shred of doubt in that man's mind whatsoever. He owns the stage. He prances around, not in an arrogant or distasteful way, but he moves around the stage as though he was Freddie Mercury. And that's not him. I'm not saying that he's, pulling off this grand deception. No, he's a rapper. He's not pretending to be someone else. He's not, desperately trying to convince people that he's in the same broad category of brilliance of a Freddie Mercury or a Bono. No, he is absolutely being true to who he is. And boy, does he bring a phenomenal energy to the stage. Folks, I was captivated watching Pitbull live. Captivated. And there was a particular performance that he did at iHeartRadio many years ago of the song Timber. And he was out there with his dancers, and he knew how to command the stage. He knew when was just enough. He didn't get too excitable. He didn't go over the top. He didn't disgrace himself up there, jumping around like a fucking retard. He struck this brilliant balance between rapping the song, moving around, giving off this aura, giving this energy out to the audience. He was sweaty and he was giving his absolute best in that moment. He was present. And I see singers. I watch singers, I listen to singers. And there are many singers in the world who have far better singing voices than Pitbull. They have a phenomenal range. They have a great level of skill with their voice. But you know what they don't have? They have fucking no aura. They have no stage presence. They have no idea how to work the audience. They have no idea who they want to be. They're just up there. My lovely horse running through the field. It's like fucking Father Ted and Dougal up on stage at the Eurovision Song Contest. They look stiff and fucking awkward. Now, I'm not saying that, Ted and Dougal aren't talented, obviously, but in terms of their appearance, I want you to go watch the Father Ted episode, the Eurovision Song Contest episode. Go look at Ted and Dougal when they're up on stage. My lovely horse running. Stiff as pokers. No charisma. No stage presence. No energy. No aura. They have no command over who's on the stage with them. They haven't got the audience in their palm. They don't know how to direct the energy in the room. They don't know how to pace themselves throughout a song, throughout a set. They don't know when enough is too much. They don't know when they're withholding too much. They don't know how to strike the balance between, being energetic enough to get the crowd involved, but not to be running around like a fucking retard who doesn't know what they're doing. I see musicians and singers, and they have all the ability in the world, but they haven't got one drop of Pitbull's charisma and stage management. And I'm happy. I'm happy that I ran this experiment, folks. I'm happy that I actually took the time to look at Pitbull, not just from a studio recorded, version of the song, but to watch the man live. And watching him live did give me a new appreciation for rapping. I have to say, it gave me a new appreciation because what it showed me was that everything that you do on stage isn't so dependent on how marvelously melodic your voice is, on how great your range is. Folks, there's something to be said for knowing who you are and bringing exactly what you know you want to be before the public. Pitbull has a shit ton of charisma. He knows who he wants to be. He's not pretending to be something he isn't. He is a rapper. He's not a great singer. He doesn't need to be. And doesn't that tell us something interesting, folks? Doesn't it? So many of us think that we need to be so unbelievably skilled at the thing that we're doing. We get lost in the weeds of skill. I need to be able to sing pitch perfect. Folks, let me tell you something. You see, whenever Pitbull is performing live, he's sweaty. Is he pitch perfect when he's doing his rap? No. He's in the moment. He's present. Pitbull doesn't look to me like he's rehearsing from a script. Yeah, he has his dancers around him. He has certain positions that he needs to be on the stage at certain points of the song. But Pitbull doesn't look like he is delving into his memory archive to just regurgitate some fucking nonsense that he's learned years ago. No, Pitbull looks like he is present. He is right there in the moment with the crowd. And I think the crowd feels it. And you know the reason why I think that? Because I feel it. I can feel it through a fucking computer screen. When I watch Pitbull live, I feel like he isn't on autopilot. Folks, how many singers do we see? Whether it's in our local town or elsewhere, how many singers do we see get up on the stage and they just punch it in? They get up there, yeah, na 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 na. Yeah, they're pitch perfect. They technically perform the song well, but it is boring as fuck. No charisma, no stage presence, no audience interaction, nothing. No movement. They just sit there. Does Pitbull do that? Fuck no. He does not. And you see, that's the interesting thing that I learned from him. I can actually stomach rapping so long as it is packaged in the way that Pitbull does it. Now, isn't that an interesting conclusion for someone like me to come to? Someone who, for all of his life, has really disliked the genre of rapping. I've never liked it. Isn't it an interesting conclusion for me to come to actually realize, well, hold on. Is there something wrong with rapping in and of itself? Or is it the people who are executing the art of rapping that's the problem? And that is the distinction that I have now made. And I have no one to thank. The only person that I have to thank for this is Pitbull. Pitbull has helped me realize that rapping in and of itself is absolutely fine. For me, this is what he's helped me learn. Now look, people are going to disagree. Some people are going to love these other rappers and the way they go on and, however they perform their raps on stage. I'm just talking from my own perspective. Pitbull he fuses both worlds together. That's how I view Pitbull. He's like this. If you've ever watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! The card game, there's a card in Yu-Gi-Oh! A magic card called Polymerization. Polymerization is a magic card that allows you to take one monster card and another monster card and fuse them together to create a new, more powerful, more potent monster. Pitbull is like the magic card Polymerization. Pitbull has somehow managed to fuse the world of rap and the world of what I would call melodic singing together. And interestingly, he is so good at what he does that he doesn't even need the singer on stage with him. Now sure, look, is the singer still incredibly important to the song? Yes. Pitbull doesn't get up on stage without the singer singing through a PA with their pre-recorded vocal. It's not as if he gets up on the stage and just raps. No, he still uses the singer. It's still a collaborative effort. But he doesn't actually need the singer beside him carrying the performance. Pitbull can carry the performance just fine on his own. All he needs is the singer's pre-recorded vocal to come through the PA. That's it. He just needs the audience to hear the melody from the singer in the background while he does his rapping, and he can take care of the rest. He can deal with all of the performative elements of the song and of the show and of the set as a whole. And he's like a fusion. He's like a fuser of worlds. And what he has taught me is that I actually can like rapping. And I would never have said that, up until 2 weeks ago. He has actually shown me that I can like rapping. It just needs to be packaged and delivered with this fusion mindset. Pitbull has this knack for bringing together melodic music with a singer and then fusing it with his rapping. And then once he takes it out live, folks, realize this is really unusual. Something unusual that I've noticed, and I've mentioned it already. Most rappers that I see, they do not have a lead frontman singer aura when they're up on stage. They don't look like frontmen. Not to me. They just don't have that, lead singer charisma. You know the way when you see a lead singer, like, I keep using the same examples, because I like U2, someone like Bono, when Bono gets up there, it's so muscular, it's so visceral. The way he interacts with the audience, the way he interacts with his band, the way he interacts with the energy from the audience. It's so powerful how he does it. Certainly back in his younger days. I mean, he's a bit neutered now. He's in his mid-60s. But, back in his 20s and 30s, man, could he command a stadium of people. He had a stadium of people in the palm of his hand. Same with Freddie Mercury and all of these great lead singers. These rappers, no. Most of them do not give me that vibe. They kind of get up there, they do their little, they have their baggy trousers on, and they do their, yo, and they look, honestly, folks, they do look a bit like Ted and Dougal at the Eurovision Song Contest. They're kind of stiff. You watch Freddie Mercury, and he's got his arms, and you look at Bono, and they move vigorously. They use the energy from the room. They allow that energy to inundate their being, and they use it. They know how to channel the energy so that they take from the audience and they give back out to the audience. And then as they give more energy out to the audience, they get more energy back. And it's this beautiful, virtuous cycle of energy transfer between lead frontman and audience. It's just, when it's done properly, it's magnificent. I don't see rappers doing that. But there's always an exception, folks. And Pitbull, to me, I have no problem saying. Now, I know some of the Queen fans, the U2 fans, the Bon Jovi fans, these people are going to say, Mr. Bandido, you're putting Pitbull in the same category of frontman as Freddie Mercury? Catch a grip. Look, I can only speak from my own perspective. And I can only tell you how I feel when I watch all of these people. And I have no problem at all putting Pitbull in the same category as Bono, Freddie Mercury, Roger Daltrey, Axl Rose, all of these people, as a frontman. I'm not saying that he's got the equivalent vocal prowess, the same vocal capabilities as Freddie Mercury, Bono, etc. That's not what I'm saying. Fuck me, folks. I'm talking about his ability to be a showman, his ability to manage the stage, manage the audience's energy, his ability to perform the song live, not in a studio, live. And isn't it fascinating? From my perspective, Pitbull doesn't even need the singer on stage with him. He can carry it himself. So now I go back to my original conclusion. Remember I said, folks, that whenever I listened to the studio versions of Pitbull's songs, remember I said, oh, it must be the singer. It must be the singer, performing, singing the melody. That's the reason why I like the songs. It's nothing to do with Pitbull. Incorrect. Pitbull is every bit as integral to that song as the singer. And I would actually argue that live, out of the studio, live, I would argue that Pitbull is even more important to the song than the singer when we get into the live arena. Because Pitbull, to me, has that unique quality. I mean, folks, it is very difficult to be a frontman. It is very, very difficult to be an outright frontman. Extremely difficult. For you to be out there on the front of the stage, it's just you and the audience. I mean, there is nowhere to hide. And I think we've all probably seen people, folks, who have tried to be frontman and it hasn't quite worked out. And it's a bit, I don't want to use the word cringy necessarily, but it's underwhelming, let's just say. It's very, very hard to take that audience energy and to actually emit it, to actually throw it back out to the audience in a way that the audience actually buys what it is that you're doing on stage. Because you're trying to sell them a performance. And in order to do that, you need to give them a reason to believe in what it is that you're doing up there. Pitbull can do this. And I've never seen another rapper be able to do this other than Pitbull. But what Pitbull has taught me is that it is possible. It is possible for the Bandido to actually like rap music. In theory. Now, will I be listening to rap music without a melodic singing vocal? Probably not. I think that would be a step too far. I probably will need some sense of melody in the song. But Pitbull has definitely shown me that rappers can be far more capable than what I once thought. And that's why I call Pitbull the exception for me. Pitbull is like a frontman. He's like a leader of a band. He has that energy. He has that charisma. He has that raw potential in his personality. And what is the lesson here, folks? Well, we talk all the time on the show about being open to having your conclusions challenged, about being open to having your worldview challenged. We always talk about never just digging your trench. You know that people love to dig their trench? Down they go. They dig away from the surface of Earth, and the further down they dig their hole, the further they isolate themselves from other people at the surface. And what happens when you dig a deep enough hole? Well, you exclude other people's information and feedback. And people are far too prone to doing this. People like to have concrete black and white worldviews, whereby they dig their hole and they say, you know what, I don't want to listen to anybody else's opinion. I don't want to have my worldview challenged. I just want to dig my hole and I want to live the rest of my life, a 1,000 meters underground in my dark hole. Never listening to anybody else, because I don't want my opinion. I don't want my worldview challenged. You know, that's called, folks, putting yourself in an echo chamber. And we don't want to do that. And the lesson here is, by just pure fluke, we could say, the algorithm decided to throw me Pitbull's music. I don't know why it did. But I saw Pitbull's head come up on the feed, and I went, oh, I know him. That's Pitbull. That's the rapper. And I thought, fucking rappers. The fucking rappers. Why am I getting a rapper up on my feed? And then the song, I recognized the song and went, oh, that's the song Timber that he does with Kesha. I like that song. Because that was a song from my childhood. Whenever I was around, let's say 13, 14, 15 years of age, I listened to that song quite a bit. So I saw that song and went, oh, well, if memory serves me correctly, I actually like that song. So I click into it. And then that's where the process starts. And the lesson here is, folks, it would have been so easy for me to just, stick with my current opinion about rappers. It would have been easy for me to say, Pitbull's just another one of them. And whenever I listened to Pitbull singing on the studio, rapping on the studio recorded version of the song, I initially came to this conclusion, no, it's nothing to do with Pitbull, it's to do with the singer. I could have just left it there and been, content, let's say, with my conclusions. But this is a great example, folks, of running an experiment fairly. I know that it's very important to watch a musician live. It's very important. You should never rely on a studio recorded version of a song, ever. Because, as we've already said, there's a lot of studio trickery that can go into a recorded version of a song. And you only truly get to see what the song is made of and what the artist is made of when you see them up on stage in front of an audience singing it live. It's only then do you see what they're made of. And so I had to be fair. At this stage, I hadn't watched Pitbull live. So, I was lacking. I didn't have all the information. Yes, I had Pitbull's studio recorded rap, that's true, but I didn't have all the information. I hadn't watched the man perform it live. So I had to make sure that I wasn't digging my trench, that I wasn't digging my hole, that I wasn't looking to deliberately just avoid some new feedback that might challenge what I thought I knew. And so I go watch him live. And when I watch him live, I learn something very interesting. And what I've learned is that I can digest a certain amount of rapping. There's nothing wrong with rapping and rappers in and of themselves. It's just more how the rapping is integrated into a piece of music. If you're mixing the rapping in with a sort of pop song framework, where you've got a bit of a singer's melody, where you've got sort of something that resembles a traditional melodic song, and you bring the rapper in along with that, well, if it's delivered in the right way, I can absolutely not just stomach rapping, but actually enjoy it. And that's the thing. I have actually enjoyed Pitbull's rapping. It's not as if I've been just, gritting my teeth, trying to make my way to the end of the song. No. Not only is he a great performer, but I've actually enjoyed his rapping on stage. I actually like it. It really adds something to the song. And I didn't expect to come to that conclusion. And I'll finish with this, folks, because this is what I'll tell you what the real nail in the coffin was. The conclusive piece of evidence that I got actually came from the following circumstance. So, I've already explained everything about Pitbull and why I actually like him as a rapper. But I had one last experiment to run. You'll notice that I've been running a whole bunch of experiments here. I've listened to Pitbull and the singer in the studio recorded version. That's the first experiment. The second experiment, I listened to Pitbull and the singer on the same stage singing and rapping live at the same time. That was the second experiment. The third experiment was watching Pitbull live on his own without the singer present on stage, using a vocal backing track. So I had ran those 3 experiments, and I've come to the conclusions that I've explained. But there was one final experiment that I had to run, the 4th and final experiment. And you know what that was? I needed to watch the singer perform the song live without Pitbull. And this was the true nail in the coffin for my old worldview about rappers. This was the true nail in the coffin. Now, I'm not looking to take a pot shot at anybody here. I'm just telling you how I felt. So I went and got a live version of Kesha singing Timber. So Kesha, who performed the song with Pitbull, Timber, on the studio recorded version, and I think there's one live performance out there of the 2 of them together, which I enjoyed, even though I think Kesha was a bit sick or ill at the time, I still enjoyed it. I then went and got a couple of live performances of Kesha singing Timber without Pitbull and without the original arrangement. So it's just the singer now. It's just the singer, the lyrics, and the melody, and the instrumental backing. Now, you would think, folks, wouldn't you? Given what I've already explained about how I really enjoy bands, how I enjoy, lyrical music sang by a singer with a melody, you would think that I would have enjoyed Kesha's solo performance of Timber the most, based on what I previously thought. Because she's the singer. She has the melody. She has the range. She has all the dynamism that comes with pitch shifts across that range, which can be quite dramatic, especially if you have a big range. And what did I find out? What did I discover? Well, I put on Kesha's solo version of Timber. And folks, I can only speak from my own perspective. You know what it was like? It was like a soggy, wet sock. We've talked about soggy, wet socks before on the show, folks. Who wants to wear soggy, wet socks? Anybody out there want to wear soggy, wet socks? I certainly don't. When you removed Pitbull entirely from the song, the energy dropped out of the arse of the song. Gone. It was like the life had been sucked out of the song, and it became this sort of slightly depressing, lacking in energy piece of music. That's just from my perspective. Now look, some people in the comments section loved it. Some people said, oh, Kesha, this is the way the song is supposed to be performed. You're the best, Kesha, blah, blah, blah. Kesha doesn't have the same frontman energy as Pitbull. She doesn't have the same charisma as Pitbull. I'm not saying she doesn't have charisma. She does. She's a good performer. No question about it. And she definitely has charisma. She definitely has some stage presence. But she doesn't have as much of those things as Pitbull. And holy fuck, even though she's singing the song well, she's singing it well, her band is performing it well, there's nothing technically wrong with the song. But you see, without Pitbull, it was a neutered version of the song. That's what I thought. And I couldn't believe it. I thought to myself, what? This is actually quite remarkable. It's remarkable what Pitbull actually brings to this music. In the past, I would have thought, he's just rapping, he's just fucking talking, yum, 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 I wouldn't have valued that. But you see, whenever you take the song out of the studio and you put it into a live setting, I thought Kesha really struggled to capture the energy of that song. And it's a high energy song. You know, for those of you who have listened to the song, it's a feel good, high energy, excellent piece of pop music, I would say, actually. It's a really good song. I really like it. Gets me really in the mood to do stuff. I feel like I want to move. If I need to go out and do something in the world where I'm moving, that would be a good song for me to listen to. Especially watching Pitbull perform it live. It's even better live when Pitbull is just on his own performing it, for me. Because I really get to take the energy from him through the fucking computer screen. It's even better. But when Kesha performed it, wet soggy sock. You know, if I had to go out into the world and do something after watching and listening to Kesha's version on her own, I would feel a bit deflated. I'd feel a bit, well, that didn't really get the blood pumping. I'd feel a bit underwhelmed. And that was the final piece of information that I needed. That was the final experiment that I needed to run. To actually watch the singer perform the song on her own. And then I started to look at a whole bunch of cover versions of Pitbull's songs. And the same thing started to happen. I would see these really talented musicians, you know, with their little acoustic guitars, playing the song, and I'd be sort of thinking, yeah, you know, you guys who are covering Pitbull's songs, yeah, you know, you're covering them well, technically. You know, you're on pitch, you're on time, there's nothing wrong with the instrument playing, you know, you've got a good voice, but it's missing something. It's missing energy. It's missing the front man. Pitbull is integral to these songs. He's not just some fucking side salad at the other side of the table. You know the way when you're ordering your main course and, you know, you have the big steak in front of you. You've got the big, you know, bowl of chips there. Steak and chips. And you know the way sometimes you get a wee bit of side salad there. You know, a wee tomato and, you know, a bit of fucking lettuce and parsley. You know, it's not as if Pitbull is a bit of lettuce, tomato and parsley on the side of your plate as garnish. Fuck no. I actually would make the case, if I had to actually choose, which I know is a very unfair thing to say because it's a collaboration. You know, whether it's Pitbull and Kesha, Pitbull and Jennifer Lopez, Pitbull and fucking Neo, it doesn't matter. It's a collaboration. What makes the song great is everyone's input. So I know what I'm about to say is a bit unfair, because what makes these songs great is the collaborative effort of all parties involved. But if I had to just stay with one of them, if I had to take one of them, and, you know, if I had to go to one of their shows, who would I choose? If I had to go to Neo on his show performing the song solo, Kesha's solo show, or Pitbull's solo show, which one would I go to? Pitbull every day. I'd choose the rapper over the singer. But that's the thing, folks. Not only can we learn from this episode about the value of running a fair experiment and not digging our hole and, you know, basically running away from this idea of challenging our pre-existing worldview, not only can we learn this from the episode, but, you know, we can learn something broadly in the arena of performance here. Do you have to be technically the best at anything? Sometimes technique, folks, and technical, you know, capability, sometimes it can be overblown. There are plenty of other singers and vocalists in the world that are technically better than Pitbull. But you know what Pitbull has? He's got a very unique voice. So he's got a very unique voice. You know it's Pitbull. There's nobody sounds like Pitbull. Sure, he's a rapper. He can't sing extremely well, but he's got a very unique voice. That's one thing. So he's already unique as soon as he opens his mouth. But secondly, he has something that, in my experience, most singers and most musicians don't have, which is stage presence, aura, and charisma, and the ability to actually perform the song live, and the ability to establish a virtuous cycle of energy transfer between himself and the audience that lasts throughout the whole song and the entire fucking set that he's performing. Pitbull is a frontman. He's an entertainer. He knows how to perform a piece of music. And he knows how to use his raw charisma, his raw confidence, his raw personality traits. He knows what he wants to be. He's not trying to be something he isn't. Sure, he's Mr. Worldwide. Pitbull's a cool name. He knows what he wants to be. And I never see Pitbull pretending to be someone else. He's at complete ease with who he is. And when he's up there on stage, not only does he perform the song brilliantly, but he is present. He's not on autopilot. I cannot tell you how many fucking singers I see on fucking autopilot. You know, I'll give you an example, just to finish off the show. Britain's Got Talent was recently on, and my mother showed me a performance of some girl who plays the harp and sings. I can't remember her name, but there's some girl from Northern Ireland who got to the final of Britain's Got Talent, I believe. She plays the harp, you know that big massive instrument that you pluck? She plays the harp and sings. And she was giving her performance in the finals. And my mother showed me the performance. I didn't watch the show. She just showed me the performance. I think she was singing that song, Electric Dreams. What way does it go? We'll always be together, together in electric dreams. You know that song. She was singing that one. And I watched the performance. Now, she's only a kid. You know, she might only be 16 or 17. So look, this isn't me trying to be, you know, nasty. Not at all. You know, she's got a great future ahead of herself. What a great platform if she can just keep herself together and not get fucking, you know, suffocated by the entertainment business and lose her way. You know, she has a very encouraging future ahead of her if she has the right people around her and she's managed properly. But I watched her performance. And you know what I noticed? Technically, great. She sang on pitch. Her harp playing was excellent. Technically, from a technical standpoint, great performance. Great execution, I should say, of singing and harp playing. But you know, whenever I watched it, you know the feeling I had? I had the soggy wet sock feeling. I had this feeling of, I don't think this young lady is actually present. I don't think she's actually in the moment. I think she's in her own head trying to regurgitate the pitch perfect version that she has rehearsed probably thousands of times in a rehearsal room. That's what she looked like to me. She didn't look like she was present in the moment with the crowd, with the judges, actually performing in the moment, giving us a unique version of the song. I didn't get that impression at all. I got the impression that she was desperately diving into her memory archive to pull out an autopilot version of the song. She felt like she was on autopilot. She felt like she was singing from an autopilot perspective. She wasn't present. She wasn't capturing the moment. She wasn't giving a unique performance. She was just regurgitating something. Yeah, she's technically very capable, very good singer, very good harp player. But the performance lacked what we would colloquially call heart. She didn't feel like she was leaving it all out on the stage like Bono, like Freddie Mercury, like Pitbull. You see those three people that I've just named? Now I know they are far more experienced. They have honed their craft more than this young lady, but it serves as a good example. This young lady on Britain's Got Talent, pitch perfect, no problem. But the soul of the performance was missing. It didn't feel like she was leaving it all out there. It didn't feel as if she was drawing on the energy of the room in the moment. It didn't feel as if she was taking that energy and trying to throw it back out into the audience so that there was this virtuous cycle of energy exchange. It didn't feel like there was any of that. It felt like she was standing at the microphone on autopilot, trying to remember her pre-rehearsed version of the song. In other words, she wasn't there on stage. She was somewhere else in her mind. She wasn't with us as an audience. And I think the judges could feel it, and I think the audience could feel it too. The soul was missing from the performance. And that, folks, is what Pitbull has in bucket loads. He has heart and soul, and the man gives his all when he's up there on stage. He gives you a unique version of the song. He's not going off some pre-rehearsed script. Yes, I know, there's only so far you can move on a stage. But you know, whenever I watch Pitbull live, it feels like he's giving me, every time I watch him perform the same song, it feels like I'm getting a unique version of the song. And I enjoy each variation that he offers to me as the consuming public. And you know, for all of us out there, folks, there's a lot we can learn from Mr. Worldwide, actually. Hopefully, you can see that from the show. Because I was pretty sure that a rapper would not be getting placed in the same category as Bono and Freddie Mercury. I didn't think that at all. But here I am. You know, most rappers, I still don't like what it is that they produce. They might be fine people. They might be admirable people. I don't know them personally. That's not a character assassination attempt by me. I just don't like rapping in general. But there's always an exception, folks. And Pitbull has taught me that perhaps I should keep my mind just a little more open with regards to the art of rapping. Because if it's done properly, I can actually enjoy it. And I'm glad I've come to those conclusions. Because now I get to enjoy music and collaborations that I would previously have actually just cast to the side. I would have said, no, not listening to that. That's not my genre of music. That's not my cup of tea.